Hey YouTube, welcome back to the Bad to the Stone channel. Today we're doing a custom mod for pebbles. Gonna make some of either tub rails, bed rails, whatever you want to call this. When the top's off, it kind of exposes the top of this rail. We've got the dog in the back, other stuff in the back, so thought it'd be nice to put a little protection on there. So we're gonna use some 1/2" aluminum and we're gonna machine out some parts, cut it out in the bandsaw, mill some slots, milling to try to get it to drop down a little bit and just fit on there nice. So far I've got a cardboard template cut out. You can see that on here. I'm gonna go take this piece of cardboard, lay it out on this piece of 1/2" aluminum, get the outer shape cut out, get some holes drilled in it, make sure I like the shape of it, and then we'll figure out how we're gonna shift over a little bit and do it on the milling machine. I won't necessarily get into a lot of detail on the machining. I've got another Blades to Be channel and I'll post a video out there with a little more details on the machining of it. So here we're just gonna focus a little bit more on sort of the quick steps to get this knocked out, see how it looks. This template, I should be able to flip it over. It should work to do the other side as well. So should have one template, knock both of these out, and then I'm gonna get them powder coated black before they are finished and on here. So not sure, I think I've seen where somebody sells a plastic version of these, but I haven't seen any metal ones. Seemed like it would be kind of a fun project to try to make some. So let's pull this piece of cardboard off. Let's head over into the shop where it's a little bit cool since it's over 100 degrees here today in Texas, and we'll get working in the air conditioning and get these things laid out and cut out. So let's head over there. Hope you enjoy the project. All right, so I took my cardboard template, got that laid on top of that piece of aluminum, just used a Sharpie to trace around that, get myself a good line, headed over to the bandsaw, and probably could have put a sharper, fresher blade on there, but still able to go through there, and just trying to cut, keep it pretty close to the line. Got both of these pieces cut out on the bandsaw, got those contours that we had traced around, got a nice, really good looking shape to these, and once I had them both cut out on the bandsaw, I took a minute, clamped the two of them together so that I could profile the two of them together on the 72-inch belt grinder. Gonna see that come up here in just a second. So yeah, with both of them clamped together, worked on that profile, a little bit on the 72-inch belt grinder. I've also got a small, little 4-inch wide benchtop grinder. Kind of went back and forth between the two of them a little bit. Started with a 80 grit belt and then worked on finishing them up with a 120 grit belt. So definitely pretty high manual job doing this one, but got a good profile on them. After I had the profile pretty decent in some of the corners and the notches, did a little bit of file work to get in there to really clean up those edges. Used a little square to make sure that I'm keeping them nice and flat because I was doing a bit of grinding on the front edge of that, and then went for a test fit. All right, I am pretty happy with the fit so far. Got it lined up, pretty much lines up with this seam back here. It's kind of what we're going for. So we got it lined up back there. It could go in just a hair, and that is because we just need to notch out a little bit around that part. I didn't get that with the saw. So if we notch that out a little bit and then just a little bit more angle on this piece, and that'll bump it over just a little bit. But again, I think that's looking pretty good down the line there. So honestly, I don't know that I really want it to go over that much. I think I might just leave that all as a little bit of clearance. I think I'm just gonna focus on knocking out that little bit right there so that it just all slides ahead just a little bit. I think that's gonna get us what we want. I think that's lined up well enough right there. So yeah, pretty much just gonna knock a little bit out of that notch on both of them. And we should be ready to drill some holes, make sure we got a good fit. Quick hand file job to get that little notch in the front, and then over to the drill press, knocked our 3/8 holes in there. Ended up going to 64th over to get a little bit of clearance on these holes, but then back outside for another test fit. Okay, we're good there. Okay, we are in on everything. All right, I was going to mill a 1/4" slot in the backside of that to drop it down, but honestly, that's such a big gap. A 1/4 inch isn't gonna do it any justice. There's a 1-inch piece, and even 1 inch leaves a pretty good gap. I believe what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get some 1 1/8" aluminum, and I'm just gonna drill and tap, and I'm gonna bolt a piece of 1 1/8" aluminum along the edge of that, and I think that that will look way better than me, and it'll be a lot easier to do. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead and just bolt a piece of 1.125 along the outside edge of that, and that will give a much better looking finish on that. Yeah, come around that curve, bolt it in place, bend it around. I think that'll look a lot better. So we will go with bolting it on. All right, I'll go pick up some 1.125 aluminum to do that, but while today we'll work on milling some decorative slots in the top side of this. I think I can definitely still do that. So we're gonna go 1/4 inch slots, 1/8 of an inch deep. We'll kind of space them out and we'll make sure we do not go over top of where the holes are. All right, well, glad I checked the other side. I got the front and the back one in, but these two, I need to adjust pretty much 1/8 of an inch in order to get them to line up in there. So as everyone has noticed, these Broncos all have a little bit of body differences, but the main one that I'm noticing is this one definitely has a little more bow out on the body, because on the other side, this goes down and actually clears the body. Here, it's gonna sit on top. So 1.125 is barely gonna fit probably. It's gonna almost touch. Might have to grind a little bit off the bottom on this side, so the gap, the spacing will be a little bit different on both of them. So anyway, makes it a little tough to make a set of these for somebody else. Every Bronco seems a little different, but still gonna look cool for this one, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, that's how they're coming together. Let's go get the other one drilled, and then we'll start working on some slots on top of them. All right, I'm fortunate enough to have a milling machine, so that is what I use to get in here to cut the slots on top. I only have a max travel of 20 inches, so I did have to do these in 3 different sections. So once you see when they're powder coated, you'll notice I've got some little marks on there where my feed would stop and I'd have to pick it up and start again. But I set it up so that I did not put the grooves around where those Rockworks pieces go in there and bolt it on. I think that gives it a pretty cool look when it's all done. If you don't have a milling machine, I think even if you just used a drill press and you put like some 3/8 holes and only went about 3/16 deep, so you kind of just are putting a dimple. I think if you laid those out offset, you could do a series of dimples on the top of one of these, and that would break up the flat area and give you a pretty cool look with just probably tools you do have at home. But anyway, this is what I ended up doing to give it the look that I had on these ones before powder coating. Let's kind of jump ahead and see what these are looking like. All right, just wanted to get kind of a close-up here. You can see how those grooves and lines look. Can you see the steps? Sure, you can tell where I transitioned from one cutter to the other, but they don't look bad at all. Lines look good. I love how that worked out with stopping around where those quick release Rockworks bolt on there. Yeah, I am very happy with how that is turning out. All right, let's go get the other one knocked out. All right, got the second one done. I think I liked it a little better. I think the transitions came out really nice on this one. So coming up to the first set there, you can see them. Kind of played with it a little bit as I was coming across, but I think got those looking pretty decent. And then on the other end, I came from the other direction and had them meet up. I think those ones came out looking nice as well. Had one little mistake, went a little bit too deep on one groove because I messed it up on the end. I only went over 450 instead of 500. I plunged, noticed it was off, fixed it, so it really isn't looking too bad there. You can only really spot it right where I plunged in. Okay, we got both of them done. Let's go ahead and get it set up, and we will start drilling and tapping all of our holes in that leading edge so that we can bolt our piece on there afterwards. All right, we're ready to get all our holes drilled and tapped in here. So I've got those all laid out. I've got them center punched on the center line there. Spaced them pretty much 4 inches apart across the flat. Got a little tighter as I came around the corner there to make sure it's gonna hold that bend nicely in place. All right, that curve stayed all right. That last screw, we got just a little bit of gap there. I feel like if I crank that up anymore though, I'm liable to break that screw. So I think we'll just leave that like that and let the powder coat fill that in. All right, we will definitely call that good. Let's get the other one finished up. These will be ready to get powder coated. All right, working on this end over here. Just grabbed a board, put a little pressure, able to get those in there nice and tight. I would say that's following the curve nicely. Nice tight match up in there. Should look good when we get that powder coated. All right, let's take one last look at these on the vehicle before I send them out to get coated. We will call those pretty much done. Let's go see how they look on there. Well, here's a last look before we go getting it powder coated. So there's our tightest spot on this side. Still enough room. We got some clearance in there. The rest of the way around, pretty even gap down there. So I think that looks really good. The other one, we're gonna put a little thicker spacer in. Should be about that same gap when it's done. But yeah, that bolted on there. Piece of trim, looks good. This one with the light, you can see a little bit of where, trying to rebend that after the holes were in there. You can see a little bit of those flat spots on there. It'll mostly come out, I think, when it's matte. It'll be just about invisible when the sun's not hitting right on it. I mean, it's pretty smooth, but you can just see those little spots on there. It's all right. I think for a first go round on those, I am thrilled with how those turned out. Get some powder coat on that. Should look just awesome on there. Okay, next time we see them, they'll be black and match. All right, here's a quick shot of those back from the powder coat. Obviously, we'll get some good shots of these on there when they're installed. But man, really happy with how that matte black came out. Now that the paint is on there, you can definitely see my little stop and starts. But by doing them in a straight line like that, I think that's still pretty minimal. Still looks really good. I don't think that's going to be any kind of a standout when they're on there. Would be a lot nicer if I could find a bigger machine and knock it out in one. But overall, that looks pretty darn good. So really happy with how the powder coat turned out on those. Now let's go put some rubber on the back of them. So on this one, on the driver's side, we're going to put some 1/8 rubber on the back, partly to protect the paint, partly to lift it up enough to make up for the size of the lip I put on there. On the other side, we're going to put 1/4 inch to do the same thing. So mine, it's a little bit different from one side of the vehicle to the other. So 1/4 inch on the other side, which should get them looking pretty much the same when they're bolted in place. Let's get this flipped over on the piece of carpet, and we'll get a piece of 1/8 rubber. The 1/8 is self-adhesive, so I can just get it stuck on there. With the 1/4 inch, it is not self-adhesive, so I've got some 3M spray to be able to stick that in place. So let's get these done and get them put back on pedals. All right, so here is our 1/8 rubber that we're gonna stick on the back of these, or at least stick on the back of this one. All right, I don't want Sharpie all over the end of my piece. See how tough this rubber is to cut. Yeah, good, not bad at all. We could wipe, get any oil, fingerprints, things off of there. All right, now let's get those holes punched back in there. There it is. Let's go get that sucker put back on the Bronco. All right, we'll see you out there. That is on there solid. There's a finished look at that on here. A little better light out here. You can see the powder coat just about filled in any of the rough machining marks. You can still see those steps, but they are pretty minimal. Man, I love how that looks and covers that up. I've seen some plastic tub covers or bed rails out there, but man, I am really happy with how that finishes off when the top is off of here. I think that looks really sharp. The matte black does it, blends it right in with everything else going on the vehicle. I am happy with that. Wish I had a way to mass produce these things a little more. Yeah, I am loving that. All right, we got our thicker 1/4-inch piece of rubber on this one to get it to match up with the other side. Just use some of that 3M spray adhesive on here. Sprayed both sides. Got that locked on. Well, it's a little tighter fit down the other side, but I don't think if I took the full 1/8 inch out of there, I think I'd be touching on the body on this side. So, you know, they're just slight difference in how that sits on there, but if I pull the full 1/8 out, I'm pretty sure that's not gonna work. So let me get a close up of this side here, give you a chance to see exactly how this fit looks compared to the other side. So there, that's in there. So there's just a hair more gap on this side, I think, than the other side. But like I say, if I try to match that up any closer, if I put an 1/8 of an inch less rubber on this one, I'm pretty sure that's gonna touch. So I think that's as close as I can get for just the slight differences in the body. So quick shot over here. There's still a gap on this side too. It's maybe just slightly different. Yeah, little bit of difference, but I think that's about as close as I can get. There she is. Done and installed. Give you good protection on those bed rails there. Hey YouTube, well that's a wrap on another project here for Pebbles in the Bad to the Stone shop. Hope you enjoyed this one as we went through, knocked out some custom aluminum bed rails on here. Man, I am really happy with how these turned out. I think this really changed the look of our Bronco when the top is off, cleaned up that edge on there a little bit. Fun to get out in the shop and work on these a little bit. So I know if you're trying to work on some of these at home on your own and you don't have a milling machine like I do, I think you could really go through and do some offset holes, maybe do some 3/8 holes offset. Just do the dimple and that could still break up this top surface on here if you were trying to make these at home. Because the rest of this project, I did it with a bandsaw and I used a belt grinder. You can use a file. You can use a orbit sander to clean up these edges a little bit. Again, if you just start with a 3/8 piece instead of 1/2 inch, because I didn't end up taking the cut out of the bottom. So 3/8 piece of aluminum, 5 inches wide, and I think you could knock this out at home just by drilling some holes in there. I built these around these Rockworks quick release. So even if you were drilling some holes, I think you could still leave a clean patch around there, and that would kind of help make your hole pattern match up with the drilled holes you need in order to mount those. Just something fun. You could probably knock these out on your own as well. If you're new to the channel, I encourage you to check out some of the other mods we put on Pebbles. We've got several other videos out there. We've got more mods coming, so if you haven't yet, great time to hit that subscribe button and make sure you know when that next video is coming out. All right, till next time, I hope you all are out in your own Bronco keeping it bad to the stone. We'll be here in the shop doing something with Pebbles and working on some more mods. We'll see y'all later. Take care.